Previously, Tutsi held a privileged position under the Tutsi king. But following that social revolution, many Tutsis fled because they feared the retribution under the Hutu rule. From the independence of Rwanda in 1962 until 1990, if we exclude the short period of 1972 up to 1973, there have never been significant refugee crisis or flows during that whole period, a period which spanned almost 28 to 30 years. However, when we come to 1994, the year where we witnessed the genocide, the Rwandan genocide, that tragic event triggered a mass exodus of Hutus. And many among those Hutus, hundreds of thousands, were killed, particularly in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They were killed by the RPF, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, because the regime in Kigali considered the presence of Hutu refugees in that neighboring country to be a security threat. So nearly 30 years after the RPF took power in Kigali, the pursuit of Hutu refugees has continued until today. The discussion we are going to have today in our studio, we examine the current situation of Rwandan refugees, especially those who live in southern part of Africa, namely in countries like Malawi, Zambia, Mozambique, and others. To discuss the topic, we have invited you a few members knowledgeable in the sector. I'm going to give them space to introduce themselves. I will start with Dr. Frodwa Nezigimana, who will tell us why he came to contribute to the debate. Dr. Frodwa Nezigimana, the microphone is yours now.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, viewers. I think, as you said, for some other places is a good morning, but I can simply say good after a long time, even though some we haven't known each other for so long. I'm Frodwa Nezigimana. I'm a refugee in Zambia, in the SADC region, in Africa. I will talk globally and mostly about refugees in SADC, but more specifically refugees in Zambia. The life of refugees, and this time also, since we had the cessation clause, we have also former refugees after cessation clause. We have also former refugees, those who are not refugees and they have refused to go back home, and they are called former refugees.
Okay, let me cut you short before you carry on, because I wanted you to introduce yourself briefly. What you wanted to expand on, you do it after the introduction of the other member of the panel. Mr. Atanaze Dushimirimana, if you are around, please introduce yourself also. I don't think he managed to be with us. I'm going to go back to you, Dr. Frodwa Neziryimana. I'm going to ask you this question, which is part of what you had started highlighting. In Southern Africa, in the SADC region, what do you think are the most pressing concerns that need immediate attention in terms of Rwandan Hutu refugees? The microphone is yours.
In this region, especially, what you could have heard from either Malawi, Mozambique, and Zambia, and for other countries like Zimbabwe, South Africa is a bit special. The most pressing issue is about security. Security in the sense that the refugee laws and regulations in these countries are a bit stiff compared to what refugee and the people of concern need. What I simply means is that according to international laws, the protection and the recognition of refugees has been losing its integrity, especially in Africa, because the Africans leaders, they have to bend on their fellow leaders of our country, of our first countries, without considering the refugee populace. So therefore, you find that our peace and our security are not guaranteed due to lack of legal documentation. What I mean by legal documentation, people have been recognized as refugees, but you find that up to maybe this time, almost 30 years ago, people are not having residence permit, no citizenships. So therefore, the countries where we have learned from, they have that tendency of taking the role or the roles of refugees in their hands without following what really the human rights is saying toward refugees, according to the UN 1959 Convention of Refugee Rules and Regulation and Integrity, freedom of movement, freedom of expression, freedom of basic need, in short. So therefore, the first thing is documentation. You find that children are not having the IDs, they are not having the what really the governments of the hosts is requesting. Here, normally they talk about study permit, which is very difficult for a refugee to pay. They talk about investors permit, which is very difficult for a refugee to pay. And to make the matter worse is that a refugee has run away, didn't come to invest. So therefore, where immigration identification is concerned, there is no separation of a refugee and another foreigner who came as an investor. Another very important point is the going backward from where a refugee came from. If you saw in Malawi, even people who were recognized refugees were being traumatized and forced to go in the refugee camp. After 20 years, 30 years, where someone is not really given freedom of movement to stay where he thinks that he can find means of feeding the family. In Africa and in Europe, it's different because mostly in Africa, refugees, they are striving themselves. They are not being assisted by UNHCR for finding means of living. So therefore, it is difficult for someone to find means of living without having legal documentation, without having peace and protection. So that is the one of the concern. Another concern is that minus having documentations, you can't do anything else. You can't go to school if you are a child, and mostly in this region, majority of refugees are youth. These are people who were born in these countries, who were not born in Rwanda or even other countries, if I may be generalized. But if I take like Rwanda, these are youth who are born in these countries who do not know about Rwanda and who need really also the recognition, because to have run away, it wasn't their choice. Like all other refugees, running away, it's a situation, as you know. All of us were not politicians. We had such incidences of what we were put on, and we had to run away to save our lives. So therefore, here, those is a good majority of youth who are not able to find access to school because they don't have the basic documentations like NRCs, identification card. And it's difficult also for like pregnant mothers to get access to health, because wherever you go in the hospital, they will ask you your NRC. And also it is even difficult to have access to even services like banks, because you can't get money in the bank if you are not identified. So therefore, those are mainly the basic and the things which need urgent attention, and we have to really fight for it, because otherwise you can't have a human being without having peace of mind, security, freedom of movement. Then you are not a human being. And the UNHCR and the UN entities at large, they need to continue stressing and also advocating for that. Same with the all international organizations who are really taking ahead on human rights activism. So before we continue, briefly, that is what is really needed. I would rather request for the advocacy and the lobbying for these countries. Like in Zambia, we are lobbying for giving citizenship to all children who were born in Zambia as refugees and other people of concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Frodwa. Yeah, you highlighted the plight of refugees of Rwandan origin. the problem they are facing regarding their fundamental human rights. But there's also another aspect of their sad experience that they've been going through, which I would like you also to say something about. That issue is concerned the attitude of the Rwandan government pursuing Rwandan refugees wherever they are, intimidating them, harassing them, destroying sometimes their way of surviving wherever they are. If you could highlight some aspects, for example, I was reading recently, if not last week, about an agreement that the Rwandan government had with the Mozambican government, which will allow both parties, both governments, to exchange people they think are criminals. And we know what Rwanda call criminals, the genocidaires, as they say. There's that. There's also the issue of Rwandan refugees who are being killed here and there in different countries. Can you talk through those particular issues in the SADC area so that our audience can get the real picture of what is happening because of the attitude of the Rwandan government?
It has been very unfortunate that among all refugee populace, you won't find such killings emulated by their countries of origin. From the time we ran away, either in Congo, in Tanzania, in Angola, in Burundi, there have been such activities of pursuing and following refugees. Those who don't know unless if they were not refugees and they're running away. And you find mostly people who are being followed, they are innocent people. Mostly who were not even politicians. Mostly who were young, very young that time. And who didn't even know about any political organization. I am talking simply as a refugee civilian. If you come closer to 2010 and even around there, you find that many people have been killed to intimidate. And especially during the time the Rwanda was proposing the agreement of cessation clause with the mostly of these countries. I will talk about Zambia. In Zambia, there are a lot of cases of killings, and I think either the church and human rights, some security wings, they know who have been behind those killings. Even if there haven't been some investigation, let's say, though investigation happened, there is no way among all other refugees, you find always the killings are among Rwandan refugees. You know what happened in South Africa, yes, but also you know what have been happening in Europe, especially in the UK where you are. I think you remember the issue of Metropolitan Police, who were also advising one of our former refugees how to live. So during this time, if you saw, there have been a lot of movement of agreements of having prisoners or people who have committed this and that to exchange. In Zambia, I can say that happened, but you find that these countries, they are showing some kind of lack of consideration of refugee rights, because in a normal way, if someone is a refugee, they were supposed to follow the UN Convention laws and regulation toward refugees. If that doesn't happen, you remember also, and you have been experiencing some of the kidnap attempts or illegal arrest for refugees. Someone has run away 10, 20 years, 30 years ago, and you want to have that person arrested. And people he have been staying with, I mean the citizens, they know who we are. Either you are a troublemaker, either you are not. Mind you, even if people can be taken to Arusha, because it is where people were supposed to be taken normally, there are people in Arusha who have won cases. And also I can say that there is a bit of corruption in international communities, because the UNHCR was supposed to come out categorically to say that what you are doing for these refugees is illegal. Because those countries, either our countries of host or our countries of origin, they have signed the UN Convention rules and regulation toward refugees. So therefore, you can check those who won cases in Arusha, even the UN has failed to recognize them. Those who have been losing their relatives, maybe kidnapped or killed, the UN has failed to come out and warn those countries. And now I can say that the countries which are hosting, sometimes also they go in dilemma, but also they were supposed to follow the rules and regulation of refugees. In Zambia, if I come to Zambia, Zambia might be a bit better compared to Malawi and Mozambique or Zimbabwe, because in Zambia, yes, things have been happening, but at least there are people who have been winning cases of illegal arrests, starting from the time of the late President Chiluba, because there are people where the attempt to arrest them happened, and one Zambian lawyer, the late Lisulo, won the case for the refugees, and they were set free. Even now, there are some other investigations where they will investigate. There is a case of recent one. Our fellow refugee, I think it went through the media everywhere, Apollinaire, and they found that perhaps the arrest was illegal, so therefore they need to follow the legal procedures of arresting a refugee. But nevertheless, you can ask yourself, why now the killings for among the refugee population, and always targeting Rwandese? Here, many people who came, they might have changed to other nationalities, but you still find that they are being recognized that no, these are Rwandese. So therefore, like the citizens or the security wings, they through not only through their investigations, even through their analysis, they will say, no, why only Rwandese? 30 years ago till now, they are the ones who are being killed among all refugee population. So they find that there is surely the involvement of the Rwandan government to follow refugees. It happened in Canada, it happened in Australia, it happened in South Africa, and here in Zambia, it has been happening. So therefore, it's like everyone is questioning. But it is a matter of, if a refugee needs to be protected, I think the United Nations, either High Commission or Human Rights, even the country who are hosting refugees, they are supposed to come up with the strategies and protect refugees, because that's why they ran away. They ran away from being killed, being persecuted, and therefore they need to be protected. Indeed, we can't say that maybe this person, if he has committed any offense, but someone will be, until when proved wrong, otherwise is innocent. So therefore, there have been such perpetual killings of refugees, intimidating refugees, especially during a cessation clause. When they were suggesting a cessation clause, there were intimidation. But we have to endure that, because I like priests and pastors. They will say, where the truth is, it will delay to show, but finally it will show. So how the situation is now is not how the situation used to be. Besides not having the documentation, but I think this time anyone will say, no, people who are behind the killings are so. I can simply say that sometimes they follow refugees, but people who are with a good heart, they also say, but if people are following this person, what about themselves? Because there are communities who do not like killing. Yes, if someone has committed something, take him to court, but don't kill. So many people have been getting tired of those killings, and therefore it doesn't, we don't really have to talk a lot about that, because it is this time a non-issue, where the killings, the attacks, and the kidnaps, and the intimidation is a concern. In this country where we are, I can be very thankful to church leaders and the traditional leaders here, because they have been really making all possible effort to let the pride of refugee being heard by the politicians. Unless there is any other way of myself intervening, but briefly, that is what I can say.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fodua. We are heading towards the end of program. But, as I started saying, it has been almost 30 years since the biggest Rwandan refugee crisis started in 1994. You highlighted a number of areas that some work has been done to alleviate the plight of Rwandan refugees. What do you think could be done is really in order to do more so that life of refugees could can become even better? I know you mentioned the difficulties that they've been going through, in that part of Africa. It is not only that part, but everywhere. What do you think could be something else which could be done to improve even more the life of refugees? In your view, what has been missing?
I'm sorry because there is an echo in your microphone, but the question I'm hearing is that what could be done to alleviate the problems which are happening among the refugee population. In a normal way, when someone is having protection, is supposed to be identified as really a protected person. So therefore, like in Africa, which is supposed not to be an exception, we were supposed to be given documentation of recognition, residence permit, even citizenships, like how it is in Europe, in America. But I can really say that, like in South Africa, they have gotten there because most of people will learn away together in South Africa. They are recognized as either resident or South African. It was very unfortunate that in Malawi, those who were given citizenship, they were taken them back. I think they were supposed to consider even their families at large without letting people being really undocumented. So meaning there was some inclusiveness of, I think, Rwandan government, as it was highlighted even by the Malawian themselves, as we have been hearing some documentaries. Another thing is that there was supposed to be some kind of finding also lasting solution on always false accusation. Because what happened in Arusha was supposed to be, I think, an example that not all people who were taken to Arusha, even though we know ourselves that many are very innocent, they were supposed to really find that at this particular time, such kind of false accusation was supposed to stop, because even them they laugh at them, where Look at people like General Kabirigi and others. They have won their cases, but you saw how they died without even UN compensating them. Even now, there are others who are still being wrongly accused. We have been seeing refugees, someone who left Rwanda when he was 3 years and is being accused to have killed. Wow, we know also Tutsi who have killed, who have never been accused. So it becomes also something which doesn't bring reality in the mind and the life of refugees, not only refugees, but also Rwandans. And you know, if you are two people, you are two persons, one have experienced something, another one, even if there is a third one who doesn't know, but yourself, you know that what you are accusing this person is wrong. So therefore, I think and I wish everyone can come back to his senses, not to have always false accusations. No wonder I was saying the international community and the countries which are signatories of UN Convention in 1959, they were supposed to come in and really address this issue of false accusation, killings, and also lasting solution by recognizing those who were born out of Rwanda to be given the citizenship or nationalities on their own choice without intimidating or giving false accusation that no, you see, your father has killed. Now we are going to a generation where even a grandfather of a family has left Rwanda while he was young, maybe 10 years or 5 years. Because now someone who is 35, 45 years, very soon will be having grandchildren if some others didn't start having. So now, what are you going to be accusing those people for? So therefore, for me, there is supposed to be an international pressure to show that really all of us, we deserve a human right, we deserve basic need, we deserve integrity. That is what is humanism. In these countries of SADC, they say Ubuntu, like how in our language we say Ubumuntu. So here also they say Ubuntu. And you can wonder if you can even say this time, even if someone, you have injured someone and has brought in the conciliation, but till now people are still being accused of wrongdoings. So it's really very, it's a big concern, because if it is so, not only the community in refuge, even the community in Rwanda, they will lose the sense of really integrity and being honest in whatever is being said or is being done. So therefore, I can pray that at least one day those things will stop, where we will come back to our ordinary senses, umuntu, to have Ubuntu, being a human being, as it used to be. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kodwa, for your contribution to this discussion. It has been a pleasure for having you to this panel. Fortunately, we had this technical problem, which is not yet totally solved. But thank you for your contribution. Let's close the debate by saying that any rights, any human rights are fought for. That except to Rwandan refugees, wherever they are, to continue fighting for their rights, seeking any support, assistance from wherever it could come from, and hope and join forces so that the plight of Rwandan refugees, wherever they are, will be alleviated. Let's close the broadcast by inviting everyone who has watched the program to share among their friends, to subscribe to our channel, so that anytime in the future we plan another program, to be notified. Thank you everyone for having followed us during this program, and we count on you for the coming program in the coming weeks. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.